I've been sitting on this for a while, not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I wanted to make sure that when I said it right. So let's talk about it. Over the past 7 weeks, my name, in whatever form the auto captions decided to spell it that day, and there were many, CramaReels, CramaReels, Crama, Croma, CramaReels, Cramar, was mentioned over 380 times across 29 live streams. In one single stream, it came up 142 times. One stream, 142 mentions. I just want to let that sink in for a second. I don't have a top 10 most mentioned topics list for nonsense on the web, but I have a feeling I'm somewhere near the top. Which is interesting because, according to her, I'm irrelevant, I have no creative ability, and nobody should take me seriously. You don't spend 380 mentions on someone you think is irrelevant. That's not how irrelevant works. Anyway, let's actually get into it, because some of what has been said is flat out false. Some of it is distorted beyond recognition, and one part of it crosses a line I am not going to let go without saying something. First, let's talk about BrittneyJ. Before any of this started, before my name was ever mentioned in one of these streams, I found out Brittney was pregnant. And I publicly said at the time that I was stepping back. I deleted my recordings. I deleted my videos. All of it. Gone. Because I don't mess with pregnant people. That's just where I stand. I don't care what someone has done or what drama they're in the middle of. If you're pregnant, you're off limits for me. Full stop. So a significant part of the narrative that's been built about me, this idea that I was some active participant running evidence and stirring things up, was built around content and recordings that I had already voluntarily removed before any of this started. Make that make sense. The recordings. Yes, I made clean recordings of BrittneyJ's live streams while I was still covering her. I work primarily with transcripts. That's just how I operate. And yes, those recordings were shared in a space that multiple people had access to. Not just Julie, not just me. Multiple creators, including, by her own admission on multiple streams, Nonsense herself, who used those exact same recordings as evidence in her own coverage. So let me make sure I understand this correctly. We both had access to the same recordings. We both used them. But somehow I'm the one who was gathering evidence and she was just doing research? That's not a standard. That's a convenience. I was friends with Julie, yes. I was aware there was a legal situation developing. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But the idea that I was some kind of operation running evidence for a court case is a dramatic overstatement of what was a shared resource that many people in this space had access to. Again, including the person making the accusation. Terry Lynn. I'm going to be straightforward about this because it's been used to justify everything else. Yes, Terry Lynn and I are friends. Here's how that happened. I came across her channel one night after I had stepped away from dog rescue, something that had taken a real toll on me. She was covering the Sebastian Rogers case, and one night she was talking about depression and what she was going through. We connected. We trauma bonded over real things that had nothing to do with YouTube. Our friendship has always lived on that level, the personal, human level. Not drama, not targeting campaigns, not coordinated anything. Becky has stated on stream, and I'm quoting her directly, "CramaReels is Terry Lynn's best friend, so I needed nothing more than that. She said that herself. She needed nothing more than the fact that I have a friend she doesn't like. That's her entire evidentiary standard. Not proof, not screenshots, not anything I actually did. Just, she's friends with someone I don't like, so she's guilty. That's not an investigation. That's a grudge. The blob photo. This one I need to address carefully, because it is the most serious thing that's been said about me, and it is the most wrong. Here's what actually happened. I was watching Justin's live stream, and he was showing a video I didn't recognize. I took a screenshot of what was on his screen and sent it to 2 people asking what I was looking at. They never answered me. What they did instead was take that screenshot, manipulate it, and create the image that got spread around as supposed evidence that Chris and Katie Proudfoot were putting Sebastian in the trunk of a car. They even wrote names on it. When I realized what had happened, I tried to stop it. I told the people involved not to do this. I went on a panel and publicly said what actually happened. And what did I get for that? Threats, harassment, and my private medical information put out publicly. So to be clear, I didn't create that image. I didn't distribute it. I tried to call it out, and I was punished for doing so. The people who actually created and spread that image are known. I know exactly who they are. And yet for 7 weeks, I've been the one named as responsible for it. My identity. This is where I'm going to speak directly to Becky. You have been broadcasting my real legal name across your streams. My first name. The name I have never connected to this channel publicly. Not once. Not ever. That's not a theory. That's not a nickname you figured out. That's my actual legal name. And you have been saying it repeatedly to your audience across stream after stream after stream. I want to be very clear about what that is. That is doxxing. It doesn't matter what narrative you've built around it. It doesn't matter how you frame it or what you think I did to deserve it. You took information about who I am in real life and broadcast it publicly without my consent. That is the definition of what you claim to be against. You have made entire streams about creators doxing other creators. You have positioned yourself as someone who stands against that, and then you sat in front of your camera and said my real name. Repeatedly. Over 7 weeks. I need you to sit with that. My channel. I run CramaReels. Me. By myself. Terry Lynn does not run it. Nobody runs it with me. It is my channel and my work. Yes, I use AI tools as part of my process. So do a lot of creators, including people in your circle. That doesn't make the work not mine. I've put real time and real thought into what I do, and I'm not going to apologize for the tools I use to get there. And no, I have never reported or struck any of your videos. Not once. If your content has been reported, that did not come from me. The threat. On April 14th, on your Dark Side stream, you said, and I'm quoting directly, "I have every fucking right to report the ever-loving fuck out of your channel. Just remember that because you did the same fucking thing." You said that publicly, to your audience, on stream, while simultaneously accusing me of doing exactly that to you. 7 weeks of naming me across 29 streams, over 380 mentions, identifying me, broadcasting my legal name, connecting me to a missing child case I tried to stop people from exploiting, accusing me of running a court evidence operation, and then threatening to mass report my channel. I haven't done any of that to you. Not one stream. Not one report. Not one video. This is a pattern now. I want to zoom out for a second Because everything I just walked through, the guilt by association, the unverified claims stated as fact, the different rules for herself versus everyone else, the sustained multi-stream targeting of one person, none of that is new. This is not the first time Becky has done this. This is just the first time she's done it to me. And I think that's worth talking about, how she positions herself. If you're new to her channel, here's how Becky describes what she does. She calls herself a friendly a-hole truth seeker. She makes content about tragedy vultures, her word for people who exploit missing persons cases and family tragedies for views and attention. She calls out content farmers. She positions herself as someone who holds people accountable, who doesn't tolerate misinformation, who stands against doxing and harassment. That's the brand. Keep that in mind as I walk through what she's actually done. The Marvon McCray case. Marvon McCray was a man who was found unresponsive, placed in a coma, and later passed away. His death became the center of a prolonged family conflict between his wife and his biological family. It was a real tragedy involving real grieving people. Becky made it a series. She produced stream after stream focused on questioning his wife, amplifying accusations, and aligning herself with one side of the family's grief. People who watched that coverage, including other creators, accused her of spreading unverified claims, selectively editing content to support a narrative, and tormenting grieving family members while framing it all as seeking justice. In other words, she was accused of being exactly what she calls other people: a tragedy vulture, a content farmer, someone who turns real human suffering into long-running drama content. Sound familiar? The Sebastian Rogers case. This is the missing child case that connects directly to my situation, so I want to be specific here. Becky has made extensive content condemning other creators for harassing Chris and Katie Proudfoot, Sebastian's parents. She has labeled that behavior tragedy vulturing. She has called out creators for pushing unproven theories, for surveilling the family, for making the parents' lives harder while their child is missing. At the same time, her own sustained, repetitive focus on the same case, the same family, the same drama, drew the exact same criticism from people watching her. That while she was pointing fingers at everyone else for exploiting a missing child's case, she was doing a version of the same thing. In me, I took a screenshot during a live stream of something I didn't recognize, sent it to 2 people asking what I was looking at, tried to stop it from being used harmfully when I found out what they were doing with it, went public about what actually happened, and got threatened and harassed for it. That's my involvement in the Sebastian Rogers case. And yet I spent 7 weeks being named as responsible for targeting a missing child's parents. The pattern. Here is what I want you to take away from this. Not just about what happened to me, but about how this works. Becky has built an audience and a brand around calling out specific behaviors: tragedy exploitation, misinformation, doxing, guilt by association, harassment, sustained targeting of individuals, using clips and recordings to build a case against someone. Every single one of those things she has either been credibly accused of herself or has done demonstrably, including to me, documented across 29 of her own streams in her own words. That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. When someone makes their entire brand about condemning a specific set of behaviors and then exhibits those exact behaviors themselves, that tells you something. It tells you the issue was never really the behavior. The issue was who was doing it and whether she liked them or not. I didn't do anything to Becky. I had a friendship she didn't approve of. I made recordings that she also used. I was associated with a photo I tried to stop. And for that, I got 380 mentions across 29 streams. my legal name broadcast publicly, and a threat to mass report my channel. That's not accountability. That's a targeted campaign dressed up in the language of truth-seeking.